season of ADAC GT Masters. Brilliant driving. It's phenomenal stuff. The wait is over. It's finally time to start the 18th season for the League of Super Sports Cars. Hello everybody, welcome to Oschersleben Motorsport Arena for race 1 of the 2024 season of the ADAC GT Masters. It is a beautiful day here in Oschersleben and a massive crowd has gathered. We've already witnessed an engrossing DTM race. We've witnessed a lively Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany race. We're now ready for the mighty ADAC GT Masters. A historic year, the 18th season of this series undergoing the biggest change in the history of the series. No longer will it just be sprint racing. This year, the 6 rounds will be sprint and endurance. Yes, 2 of the 6 rounds are going to be endurance races, 80-minute races and 40-minute races on the same weekend. We'll tell you more about that as the season progresses. But today at Oschersleben and tomorrow, it's very much as you were in terms of the format, 2 60-minute races plus 1 lap. But lots of new drivers on the grid and a new format, a format that is very much aligned towards young drivers and ambitious amateurs, all on the road to DTM, because the winner of the Road to DTM Championship will receive significant funding towards a DTM drive. And there is a driver who is certainly in the box seats for that. Max Osten, we saw him last year as a guest driver alongside Bruno Spengler at the Red Bull Ring, and he won on debut. This man is red hot. Max Osten, who we saw in BMW M2 Cup a couple of years ago. We saw him in GT4. He wins wherever he goes. So Max Osten is our pole sitter for this brand new era of the ADAC GT Masters. And there is the defending champion, at least one of them, Elias Seppänen for Landgraf Motorsport. He and his fellow champion from last year, Salman Ovega, well, they've separated. The divorce was amicable. I think Elias Seppänen got the cat. But they are both racing in this, but they have different partners this year. Salman Ovega is racing for Haupt Racing, HRT, alongside David Schumacher, the driver that we saw at DTM last year, the legendary David Schumacher, who joins us on the grid for the ADAC GT Masters this year. It is set to be a gripping season. We will have 2 rounds, 4 races, which will be sprint races. We have the 2 here at Oschersleben this weekend. We head to Zandvoort in June, and then it's into the endurance section of the season. We head to the Nürburgring in July. There'll be a 40-minute race and an 80-minute race featuring 2 pit stops. And then, for the first time in 9 years, the ADAC GT Masters returns to the mighty Spa-Francorchamps. I can't wait to see these cars going up Eau Rouge and along Raidillon, that legendary circuit. And that will also be another endurance race. And then we head to Austria for round 5, back to the sprint format. And then it all comes to a halt in October at the Hockenheim Ring. Lots of drivers to talk about, lots of excitement here in the commentary box with me for most of this season. Very pleased to welcome once again the voice of DTM. Good afternoon, Chris Hartley.
Hi Brian, hi everybody. Yeah, the engine's fired up. We're about to go into our first race of the weekend, the first race of this new season. Good to see a nice strong entry, not just of cars and teams, but good young upcoming drivers entering the championship. Many of whom have come up through from international karting, of course, initially, but also up through packages like the GT4 Championship. We've had a lively start to the weekend, haven't we? Because in the practice session yesterday, the qualification qualifying session today. We had two big offs. Yesterday, there was quite a long stoppage to the whole event due to an off into turn 2 into the barriers for the number 91 team use Porsche. Johannes Katfinger was driving. His brother Michael I was speaking to before we came on air, asked how much damage there was. He said we were quite lucky in that there was not as much damage as there looked. So it was a late-ish night for the team getting the car ready for qualifying, but only 11 o'clock at night. Only 11 o'clock at night, but sometimes they work till the small hours of the morning to get the cars fixed. They see the bright yellow Porsche in the background. He explained to me actually that it was a bit unlucky. Apparently there's a bump on the way, on the tarmac, on the way into turn 2, and he just unluckily, in a way, mistimed it, so he changed gears as the car hit the bump, and as it landed, the wheels locked momentarily, and that's what sent him off into the barriers. And then we had qualifying interrupted by a red flag this morning, and a big crash and another barrier repair. This time it was the Audi of Land Motorsport, and that car of the Holsom twins, I'm afraid, is out for the weekend.
So there is Maxime Osten on pole position. Tim Zimmermann, who finished 8th with one win last year's championship. Defending champion Elias Seppänen and Janis Fischer on row 2 ahead of Eduardo Cossetang and Salman Vega, the other defending champions. Alan Valente, we saw him last year at Simon Connor Prim. He was very impressive on his guest in GT Masters last year. Quanta Mokoena, welcome back. And the aforementioned Michael Katfinger, Jonas Karklees and Mike David Ortman, the reigning GT4 champion on row 6. Row 7, Nico Hanska and Taylor Hagler all the way from the USA. And then on the back row of the grid for FAC Autotech, we welcome FAC Autotech back to the ADAC GT Masters, and it's Alex Schwarzer at the wheel of that car. We are at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena, a circuit fairly short, 3.667 kilometers around. That equates to just over 2.2 miles, 14 turns, 7 to the left and 7 to the right. Fairly unusual pit entry and pit exit on the outside of the circuit. Overtaking opportunities, not a lot of them, mainly into turn 1, but it is a controversial corner. A sharp left hand and a sweeping right hand that catches many people out. So keep an eye on those corners. A good place to gain places, a good position to lose places. Right, out of turn 14, are we ready? 2024 ADAC GT Masters, race 1 of the season, and we are go. The cars fan out, Katfinger onto the grass, but it is Tim Zimmermann who pulls alongside Max Osten into that tight turn 1. Are they all going to make it? Is Zimmermann to the inside? Osten trying to go wide around the outside. He's given the squeeze by Tim Zimmermann. Zimmermann trying to push his way through. Also in there, Janis Fischer in the number 3, the grey Mercedes. Now Max Osten fighting back, so Max Osten getting his nose back in front. Tim Zimmermann now defending that second place. Keep an eye on Elias Seppänen in 4th place, looking eager. Max Osten, he's weaving to get heat into the tyres, but he's leading the way. Tim Zimmermann in 2nd place. Now Janis Fischer to 3rd. Elias Seppänen behind him. The rest of the cars come through. Looks like Salman Vega's made a good start as well as he stares at the back of his teammate from last year.
Yeah, really good start from Janis Fischer as well, just to nick 3rd place away from the number 1 car of the defending champion, Elias Seppänen. So the number 3 out car up into 3rd place, that light grey coloured car. But a nice clean start from everybody into what you say is a pretty tight corner. One to watch out for a bit further back coming through potentially. Number 34, the Volkenhorst Motorsport BMW 2-time GT4 champion, Mike David Ortman. Chatted with him before we came on air as well and asked, was it the red flag in qualifying that messed you up? Absolutely, he said. We've got more pace than our position on the grid would have you believe. So watch for that BMW coming through as the race progresses.
It is a field that is absolutely littered with talent, none more so than Max Osten, who has already pulled clear of Tim Zimmermann at the front of this race. It is a 60-minute race plus 1 lap. There is a mandatory pit stop and driver change that will need to take place between 25 and 35 minutes into the race. It's a 10-minute window that opens 25 minutes into the race, closes 35 minutes into the race, and during that window, every car will need to come into the pits for a mandatory stop. Quando Mocoena, we saw him last year running for the Exeter team. He's onto the dirt. He's learning the hard way. Looming in his mirrors is Mike David Altman, also fighting his way through, but Quando Mocoena survives a big moment there. He picks it all up, gathers it all together. Alan Valente also there. Great to have Emil Frey racing in the Ferrari. Ferrari back on the grid at ADAC GT Masters. It's a bit lively behind. There's a dust storm being generated by cars running wide. Max Osten, no such problems to the inside. Eduardo Cosseteng relieving Salman Vega of position. Those BMWs looking mighty here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. So up a position for Eduardo Cosseteng. We saw him last year doing a solid job, looking to challenge further up in the championship, but defending champion, one of them, Salman Vega, losing a position. Behind him, Simon Connor Prim, keep an eye on the number 33 car, was watching him yesterday in practice. He was monstering that car across the curbs. Also, Michael Kaffinger in 8th place. Quando Mocoena in the number 5 car. He's gathered it all up, pulled it all together, and carries on. You can see the cars fanning out at the start. Spectacular to watch here. And then in towards turn 1. Gives you a good perspective of that corner. Really tricky corner. But turn 2, the Hosel turn, that's the one that's really tough to master. You see many cars spearing off onto the grass. So the fact they all survived, great news. Max Osten, he lost the lead briefly, but he clawed his way back around the outside, didn't he?
Yeah, this is what it looked like on board with Alan Valente, who's moved across to Emil Frey Racing for this year. Last year's championship runner-up, swaps Mercedes for Ferrari. And Mocoena alongside him. Got a good start initially, didn't he? In the turquoise liveried Mercedes. Through he went, and then this tricky tight right-hander at turn 2. And this is looking across. Oh, little love tap there from the number 2 Mercedes of Salman Vega onto the Yanis Fitcher. That sort of helped Yanis into a very good start there, didn't it?
Yeah, well,
he moved up to 3rd place. Yeah,
it is his teammate.
Absolutely right. So Maxime Osten crosses the line 1.7 seconds clear at the end of that lap. 124.3, 2/10 quicker than Tim Zimmerman, who was very good at the start of last season, won the first round of the year. Yanis Fitcher still in 3rd place. Good start for Michael Kapfinger as well. The troubles they had in free practice with that luminous yellow Porsche. They've gone from 10th up to 8th. And Michael reckoned his brother was a little bit quicker than him around this circuit as well. So they're positive that they can get a top 5, top 6 finish tomorrow.
Oh, they've been so excited. They've been shouting about their debut in the GT Masters since about last September. That's Taylor Hagler, who's come all the way from the USA. Looks like it's a long way for her to come because that car is crawling along. Looks like the GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghini is in trouble. She's going to pull it up, and it looks like Yannick Julius Bernhardt is not going to get a drive this afternoon. Now she's stopped there. That is going to bring out a safety car. She can't move it from there. Certainly, at the very least, a full course yellow, possibly a safety car, because where she is stranded, you cannot leave a car there. And there is confirmation. Safety car is out, so that massive, nearly 2-second lead that Max Osten had built up over Tim Zimmerman is going to disappear into nothing.
You can almost hear the groan from inside Max Osten's car, can't you? Oh, really? There goes my lead. But such is life in GT racing. Safety car comes out. The good thing is it's not too far from the pit lane exit, so it won't take too long to recover that, I don't think. But it will bunch the field completely up. Before all that happened, it was a great move, wasn't it, from Eduardo Cosseteng to get ahead of last year's champion, Salman Vega. Cosseteng, of course, has now kind of become the team leader because he was, in a way, the understudy to the more experienced in terms of GT's Ben Green last year, but now he's the team leader. But he knows how to wrestle the car around because his dad, Jody Cosseteng, is an esteemed multiple touring car champion.
Yes, indeed, and the talent is in the family. We're looking at Ron Dobmeyer there, who's driving the safety car. He is a fireman in his spare time, or maybe he's a fireman full-time and he's a safety car driver in his spare time. One of the two. Anyway, we're hoping we're not going to see too much of him this weekend, but here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena, I'm afraid we do get quite a few safety cars. There is a replay of Quando Mocoena just going very wide. He would have got dirt onto his tyres. There was Kapfinger just behind him. Did well to avoid the billboard. Mike David Altman in the background there trying to pounce and make the most of the opportunity as well. And
Valente,
that looks like Valente.
Wiping his eyes, yeah.
Yes.
I think when Motorsport went wide, I don't think there was any contact. If there was, it was minimal. But into turn 3, the Porsche of Catfinger just sort of showed its nose. And I wonder if it slightly put him off his racing line. That's why he went wide. But
yeah.
The South African recovered anyway, didn't he? Although because he lost that position.
Right, we've notification the safety car is in on this lap, so a nice short safety car period. To remind you, the pit window will open 25 minutes into the race, so keep one eye on that. We'll tell you more about the pit stops when we get a bit closer to them, but at the moment, Max Osten, he's up at turn 13, so he will be backing the field up as we speak. The safety car has already pulled away from him. Tim Zimmerman will see this as an opportunity to potentially make a bit of a jump. All the drivers behind, well, they're all kind of rubbing their hands together at the moment thinking, maybe I could pick up a few places while the field is all bunched up together. But it is Max Osten who's got the start that he needed. He's broken a bit clear from Tim Zimmerman. Janis Fichter in that third place, looking down into turn 1. Eduardo Kozatek to the inside of Elias Sepman. He is a man on a mission. He's already lining up Janis Fichter in front of him. So Elias Sepman, the defending champion, sees Eduardo Kozatek almost catching him napping, comes sailing through. He has a little look to try and take him back. Janis Fichter behind them. There's Salmano Vega going head-to-head with his teammate from last year. Don't touch each other, chaps. They're good friends, at least they were until they split up. But it is Elias Sepman in that 5th place. Salmano Vega in 6th, challenging him. Behind them, Simon Conner-Prim. Elias Sepman sees a little gap on the inside of Eduardo Kozatek, decides that discretion is the better part of valor, backs out of it. These cars are hustling along, really good close racing, with the exception of Max Osten, our race leader, who once again has broken clear of Tim Zimmerman.
Yeah, sort of looks like the Lamborghini's backing them up. Look at this, side by side. Kozatek with another great move at the end of the back straight on the way into that right-hander at turn 11 at the end of sector 2. They drop down to 3rd gear on the brakes. Through he goes, and Kozatek is pulling off some terrific moves here. Somebody forgot to tell him you can't overtake around here.
Right, so Zimmerman into the pits. Now, this isn't a scheduled stop, so clearly Zimmerman in trouble. This is a real shame. The 2nd place car, you can see head down, shaking his head. Tim Zimmerman looks like he's going to be bringing the number 63 car into retirement. Benjamin Heites, his co-driver, will be looking on disconsolately, I have no doubt at all. So Zimmerman into the pits, looking like, you can see him thumping the steering wheel. Looks like a bit of a terminal problem to me, and the GRT Grasser Lamborghini looks to be coming into retirement. Hagler as well. So that's 2 GRT Grasser Lamborghinis. Maybe a puncture. So you can see they're coming out here with a spare tyre. Of course, tyre changes are not allowed in GT Masters unless there is a puncture. So it looks as though that might have been the problem. Whichever way, well, he's going to be a long way back now, isn't he?
Yeah, it looks like a slow puncture. It's not entirely deflated, has it? But you could sort of see on that restart, he was bottling them all up and struggling for pace because Osten just left him for dead, and then sure enough, it got worse and worse as the lap went on. So this is a replay of the moment. You can see it hobbling around a bit there. This was the move from Kozatek, first of all, but he's bottling them all up here. So the Lamborghini could see was struggling for pace, and now the reason becomes apparent why. Elias Sepman was right behind that move from Kozatek. He pulled it off once, so I'll do it again, he says to somebody else, and that's how it looked.
Great.
Picture perfect move. Yeah, somebody who's new, relatively new to GT racing as well. His first season was last season, having come from single-seaters racing previously in the British Formula 4 Championship.
So our race leader is Max Osten. 2nd place is Eduardo Kozatek. They are teammates. I'm doing inverted commas in the air with that because they may be teammates, as in they're both at FK Performance, but they would dearly love to beat each other. The 2 BMWs leading the way. Then we've got 3 Mercedes. Janis Fichter, Elias Sepman and Salmano Vega all running nose to tail. Quite lively behind. Simon Conner-Prim in 6th place. And then Quandamo Mokoena, the driver from South Africa. He says he wants to be more famous than Kelvin van der Linde. He's going the right way about it, doing a bit of off-roading earlier. Such an enthusiastic young driver. He was running for Team Engster last year in an Audi. Didn't quite turn out how he'd hoped to, but it was a great training ground as once again a big cloud of dirt rises up into the air as someone else goes wide. I don't know who the lights are being flashed at there by Eduardo Cosseteng because there's no one in front of him, but maybe it's just habit to press the button.
Well, Austin has just lapped Tim Zimmerman, who lost the best part of a lap with that tyre change and the puncture. So he got past him down the back straight. So, yeah, next target for Eduardo Cosseteng is a car, which is actually going to be really quick, isn't it? Because he's ironically slotted back to second in the pack now, which is where he was before the puncture problem. But he's a lap down now. So the driver second there in the orange and blue Lamborghini, a lap down. That's Tim Zimmerman. That's your actual second place car there. The black and white Eduardo Cosseteng BMW. BMW 1-2. Mercedes third, fourth and fifth with Fitcher, Sepinen and Vega. And then Simon Connor Prim next up in sixth place.
Oh, to jump forwards a lap. That's what Tim Zimmerman will be thinking. Alas, no. In 13th place, Alexander Schwarzer. Now, he is the only, in fact, bronze driver in the race as we ride on board with Mike David Ortman, and you can see the dirt being kicked up. The Catfinger brothers have been having a lively time on the grass all weekend, but they are so rapid. We were due to have, for the first time in the history of the series, two sets of identical twins starting the race, but when Sandra Holzem had his moment this morning, that meant that they were unable to start. So the Land Motorsport Audi was too damaged to take part, so we'll have to wait another round before we have two sets of identical twins in the race.
So that wide moment from the Porsche, Mokoena got back ahead of him. Mokoena had his own wide moment coming out of turn 3 a few laps ago. So the blue or the turquoise Mercedes back ahead now of the luminous yellow Porsche for 7th place, and we watched it all go on from 9th place. Mike David Ortman, the two-time GT4 champion, who started 13th on the grid, so he started to make a little bit of progress now in the Aston Martin. The other Aston Martin, Nico Hanke, is back in 11th place in 35 car. So the race leader, 5.5 seconds clear now of Eduardo Cosseteng. He's made short work of that, off what, 3 laps of the restart, hasn't he, since the safety car?
He really has. The BMW looking so strong here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. Eduardo Cosseteng doesn't have any such luxury. Janis Fitcher very much keeping him honest. Elias Sepinen, you can see how hard he is pushing as he kicks up dirt once again. His former teammate Simon Vega behind him, and Simon Connor Prim, one of my tips as we see Taylor Hagler walking back to the pits, and that's a long way to come for what was just 3 laps in that Lamborghini, but she's gone back to the pits. We will see her again tomorrow, and it will be the opportunity for a co-driver, Yannick Julius Bernhardt, to do the qualifying and to start the race. Here we come then, along towards turn 11. The car's in single file at the moment, just while we have a gap to explain to you. Every car is required to take this mandatory pit stop, but the pit stop duration has changed from last year. Every driver is awarded an FIA category. It can be bronze if they're an amateur driver. It can be silver if they are more qualified, normally the younger drivers that are under 25, or gold, the more experienced drivers. Depending on what FIA category driver pairing it is will depend on how long the pit stop is. All of the drivers in the field, bar the number 4 car, are silver combinations. That means that their pit stops need to be a minimum of 85 seconds long from pit entry to pit exit. Car number 4, which has been driven by Alexander Schwarzer and Alexander Fack, great to have him here in the GT Masters this year, they get the luxury of a pit stop that is 15 seconds shorter, as we see Simon Vega exploring the outside of the circuit. So car number 4 will be stationary for 15 seconds less when they come into the pits. The reason being is that Alexander Schwarzer is a bronze-rated driver. Alexander Fack is silver. And we saw Alexander Fack in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany last year, and the last couple of years, very impressive, a winner in Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup as well, and he will be in the seat of car number 4 after the pit sequences, currently running in 13th place.
Yeah, that wide moment from Simon Vega cost him about 0.8 of a second and allowed Tim Zimmerman to unlap himself in the Lamborghini. Been keeping an eye on this battle as well between Zeppelin, who you're on board with now, the #1 Mercedes, on the tail of Janis Fittler, who got past him at the start, but he's really starting to ramp the pressure up. He's been breathing down his neck in that copper and white liveried car. Simon Conor Prim moves ahead of Vega now into 5th place as well. I think as a result of him being a bit on the back foot after that leery moment on the previous lap. And can we see exactly what happened there? So as they come through, this is a slow-mo coming through the chicane. Oh, there goes a bollard. So the Lamborghini, oh, not quite wiping out the bollard, but giving it a good go, because, Brian, through that sequence, that right-left sequence, which they take in 4th gear at about 185 kilometres an hour through turns 8 and 9, you pretty much straight line it, don't you?
Yes, chicane, what chicane? The night is young as far as that bollard goes. Don't hit the middle one, otherwise we're going to lose this picture, because the middle bollard has a camera in it. We have a very brave TV director here who puts cameras in places you would never normally put cameras, but we get some wonderful shots as a result. Max Osten, his lead over 6 seconds. We've still got 42.5 minutes of this race remaining, so a very, very strong showing for the FK Performance BMW. Meanwhile, the challenge is on. Janis Fittler now with defending champion Elias Seppänen with the #1 on the door, challenging for position out of turn 14. Onto the pit straight they come. The 2 Mercedes, albeit in different teams, running nose to tail, and just behind them, Simon Conor Prim. Said at the beginning, don't rule him out. I love the way he attacks the curbs in that Lamborghini. He is a contender for the championship this year, and you can see him closing in on Elias Seppänen.
That's right, in the dark blue Lamborghini, number 33 in 5th place. He's just done a personal best lap, having been freed of Simon Vega, so 125.1, which was 2/10 quicker than the 2 Mercedes he's trying to catch. Having said that, Fittler's just edged away a little bit from Zeppelin. There is Fittler in the light grey number 3 Hout Racing Mercedes. He started to inch back towards the tail of that BMW of Eduardo Constantine, the driver from the Philippines there, the black and white car, which is running in 2nd place. So it's just concertinaing a bit, but I think the one constant factor here is, as you say, Simon Conor Prim, who does another good first sector time, although Fittler does a personal best in the first sector and edges away from the 2 behind a little bit more. So he's ramping things up now, trying to get 2nd place away from Constantine.
As we've already mentioned, tyre changes are not permitted in GT Masters unless the drivers have a puncture. So these tyres on these cars need to go for 1 hour plus 1 lap. And we've seen it in the past where drivers have gone too hard, too quickly, and they've taken too much out of the tyres. And then suddenly, in the latter part of the race, there's nothing left for their co-pilots to defend with or to attack with. The driver who takes over after the mandatory stop has to inherit whatever state the car and the tyres are in, and if they've taken loads out of the tyres, they're going to be very vulnerable to attack. So it's about the long game. So Max Osten, I expect, and Eduardo Constantine expect that the team will be on the blower saying, look after the tyres, don't go too hard, too quickly. We see Tim Zimmerman going through. He's, of course, the lap down. There's Janis Fittler, Elias Seppänen, Simon Conor Prim, Simon Vega, all in a row, all ready to challenge for position.
Fastest driver on the track on that last lap was Janis Fittler in 3rd place, 125.205. 2nd quickest driver, Simon Conor Prim in the Lamborghini in 5th place. So those 2 making progress. The race leader was actually only a 124, was in a 124.7 on that lap. So in that gap, in terms of the rest of them coming down, but Osten is still comfortably leading the race. He's 7.5 seconds clear now. Somebody's just put in one of the best sector times in the middle sector that we've seen so far in the race is the driver of the used Porsche, the luminous yellow number 91 car there, Michael Kapfinger. He's pushing hard to try and get that 7th place back away from Mokoena in the Mercedes. And here go. Right, here's the bollard. Is he going to get done again? Yeah, it takes another right hook from the Lamborghini, but comes back on its feet. It's like Muhammad Ali. Keep hitting it, keeps coming back off the ropes.
I'm going to get into the bollard industry. I'll make a killing here, I should think. Max Osten, who's leading the way. Just to remind you, this is only his third ever race in ADAC GT Masters. He's a driver who has been in GT4 for the last few years. He has so far a 50% win record. He's from the 2 races he's completed, he's won one of them. He did pretty well in the other one as well. So he is very rapid. He wants to keep that percentage level up. He's going all the right ways about it. Eduardo Kozatec, certainly the most improved driver over the winter that I can see. Whatever he's been doing, just keep doing it. We're on board with Michael Kapfinger, his brother Johannes, who will be taking over later on, the number 91 car, in 8th place at the moment. Just nice and solid for the legendary Team U Sportwagen Technique.
Yeah, Max Osten, really impressive. The tall Dutchman, 8 seconds clear. Remember, they all got onto his tail after a few laps because of the safety car as well. He won in 2022 the BMW M2 Cup. That was where he first came onto the DTM package weekend. As Brian said, he's moved up through GT4s. He actually won 2 BMW championships that year because he won the BMW Benelux Championship as well. So, and then making his debut with 2012 DTM champion Bruno Spengler, who did a guest drive at the Red Bull Ring towards the end of last season. The pair of them got a victory, as Brian was saying. So Max Osten, exemplary in the lead of the race. He's another half a second quicker on that lap than Kozatec in 2nd place. The gap now is out to 9 seconds, but Kozatec has still got this trio, or the duo of Mercedes and the Lamborghini of Simon Conner-Prim, who's doing his best to destroy that bollard at the chicane. It's still there with him, but he's fending them off for now, isn't he?
Right, another car into the pits. This is not scheduled either. Jonas Karklees, we saw him last year in the Liquimoli Team Enxler Audi, so clearly he's got problems as well. He's sharing driving duties with Pablo Schum. Now, I don't know if this is a puncture or a mechanical issue. Looks to me like all 4 tyres are up, but he comes into the pits. There's not a lot of hurry to do anything about it at the moment, so you get the feeling that mechanical woes have hit that car, and it could be another retirement, and the steam and smoke pouring from the back of the car. That's never a good sign.
No, afraid not. Doesn't look like that's going to be going back out onto the track. Just looking at Alan Valente, who had a sterling final weekend of the 2023 season, a win and a second, and second in the championship, racing the Mercedes last year with Rolf Aron. He got the Ferrari drive this year with Emil Frey Racing, but struggling a bit at the moment, back in 10th place, Alan Valente. And well, Emil Frey Racing and Ferrari also have a good setup around here, because Jack Aitken has just about an hour ago won the DTM race around here in their DTM car. So just a bit of a sedate start for Alan Valente. Having said that, if qualifying doesn't go well, and the red flag didn't help quite a few drivers in qualifying, as we've seen, unless your name's Eduardo Kozatec, it's quite tricky to weave your way through the order. Even Michael David Ortman, with all of his skill, has only gained 4 places, and one of them was straight away off the grid with that absence of the Landgraf Audi.
Really good to see Ferrari back on the ADAC GT Masters grid for the first time in many years, as is also the case with Aston Martin in the hands of Mike David Ortman. You can see that Jonas Karklees is out of the car, so the car being disassembled, and Pablo Schum there on the right-hand side, clearly not going to get a turn in the seat today. Hopefully they can sort that overnight, and for race 2 tomorrow, we will see them back out on track. Right, we are 10 seconds away from the pit window opening. It's time for the strategy to kick in. To remind you, the pit stop, minimum pit stop time for pit entry to pit exit is 85 seconds. Samuel Vega certainly blinking very quickly. HRT pulling him in, getting ready for David Schumacher, who will jump into the seat of the number 2 car. Also into the pits is Michael Kapfinger. He'll be handing over to his brother Johannes. Also in is Alan Valente, and he'll be handing over the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari to Jean-Luc de Oria. All these drivers with the 85-second minimum pit stop time. The one we're going to have one eye on is the FAC Autotech Porsche, when Alex Schwarzer comes into the pits. He will be stationary for 15 seconds shorter, so that will propel him further up the grid.
Yeah, I think I saw the white Porsche coming into the background, actually, so I think he's on the way in. But here comes David Schumacher, ready for his GT Masters debut. 2 seasons in DTM. Strong single-seater career as well. Struggling to get the seat out, that doesn't help, but you've got this minimum time, so no real dramas. But Schumacher gets in. A race winner in the FIA Formula 3 Championship a few years ago. He drove to a very high level in single seaters before switching to GTs, but still learning the trade with GT3 cars. But he's been not just competing in DTM, he's done some GT World Challenge racing as well, and getting better and better. David Schumacher scored multiple points finishes in DTM. Didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, but you can certainly see the improvement is there from David. And he is strapped in, ready to go, despite the issues with the seat. So they're in. The Catfinger brothers are going to swap as well. That makes sense, because Michael was saying brothers are a bit quicker than me around here, so give him more time in the car. The Milfray Racing Ferrari in, and yeah, Schwarzer and the Fat Car came in as well. That Porsche also in with less pit stop time, though.
Our race leader remains out, and I would suggest they'll want to keep Max Osen out for as long as possible in this pit window. He's sharing driving duties with Leon Köhler. He's a driver who's done a couple of races in GT Masters for ID Racing, but he's a driver who has spent his whole career driving Porsches primarily, so jumping into the BMW is a very different discipline for Leon Köhler, who's very prolific in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany over a number of years. So this is going to be something very different for him. So I expect that Max Osten will want to build up as big a gap as possible, and with 11.5 seconds, that's a nice safety blanket. A little bit of a tight squeeze in the pit lane. The Milfray Racing Ferrari pulling out right in front of Alex Fack. Hello, Alex Fack. Welcome to the ADAC GT Masters. Great to have you here. Great to have your team back on the grid after an 11-year absence. That is Nico Handke in the car 35, and he is handing over to Chandler Hole, another driver from the USA.
So only a very limited window of 10 minutes equates to around about 5-6 laps maybe, where you can make that call. So you're right, they'll try and keep the quicker driver out as long as possible, but certainly Osten will be going right to the end, because he's absolutely flying. 12.6 seconds clear now of the second place car of Eduardo Cosseteng. You can see it on camera there, the black and white BMW still only just ahead of Janis Fitcher, who's winding everything up here to try and find a way through, making the Filipino driver push as hard as he can. Zeppelin not too far back in fourth. The Lamborghini of Prim just out of shot as well in fifth place.
Suddenly, I think Eduardo Cosseteng looking a little bit vulnerable. He'll want to stay out as long as possible. He's going to be handing over to Gregory de Cyborg, who is making his GT3 debut. A name that might not sound familiar, but he is the grandson of 2-time Formula 1 winner Joe Siffer. Great to have him here, but it's going to be big shoes to fill if second place is where it is when Eduardo Costa comes in. So Gregory de Cyborg will be very nervous. He's an automotive mechatronics engineer. In his spare time. He's done a couple of seasons in prototype. Not a clue, mate. I wrote it down. I know what it means.
Though, doesn't it?
It sounds great.
Very high tech.
But he has done prototypes, but the pressure will be on, as indeed Elias Seppänen, who is sharing driving duties with a driver who is in the French Formula 4 series last year, Tom Callender, one of the many talented German drivers coming through the ranks. And Callender will be the youngest driver ever to have raced in ADAC GT Masters at 16 years old when he gets behind the wheel of the #1 car. No pressure or anything then.
So where we're from in the UK, you have to be 17 years of age just to be able to drive a road car to get a licence. He's 16, he's in a GT3 car. That's
living the dream.
550 brake horsepower. I mean, he's going to find Vauxhall Nova a bit boring on the road when he passes his driving test, isn't he? Here's Mike David Ortman then coming in. Bolotov is going to replace him. Good driver pairing this, but they didn't get the rub of the green in qualifying, so it's just now about trying to make the most of the situation, score some points where you can, and then maximise tomorrow in qualifying if possible. So
interesting driver combination, this one, because Mike David Ortmann won the ADAC GT4 Germany Championship last year. It was that man there, Denis Bulatov, who pressured him all the way, ended up finishing in second place. It was Mike David Ortmann along with Hugo Sasser who retained the championship, the first driver pairing ever to win 2 championships in the ADAC GT4. But Denis Bulatov, he is a very useful pilot. I have to tell you, he is not scared to get his elbows out. When he's in traffic, he is prepared to get down and dirty with it as the bollard survives. How many more hits can that bollard take? I'd say not many more.
Yeah, body hook that time. Yeah, it's on its last legs, that bollard. It's had 4 good poundings now, most of them from the Lamborghini, but that one's almost split it in half. Right, more pit stops coming in then. Fitcher comes in and Connor Prim comes in as well, and that battle that we had for second, third, fourth and fifth. So we've got the minimum pit stop time. Get as close to it as you can, but there's still a bit of pressure to get the timings right here, because if you're half a second out, this could be a swap of position here, so got to be careful.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very precise. Out of the car gets Simon Connor Prim. In gets Jonas Greif, a driver that we saw in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup of Germany last year. So he's made the change, and a very different kind of car, Lamborghini, to the Porsche, but he has adapted to that well. The other car that you saw coming in was Janis Fitcher. He's handing over to Finn Wiebelhaus, and that's a driver who has been making the headlines over the winter. He took part in the GT Winter Series, and he got 2 wins and a second place from just 3 races. So I think we can say there's a fair bit of talent. So keep an eye on Finn Wiebelhaus, who's taken over the number 3 car from Janis Fitcher. That is a potent pairing. Simon Connor Prim, well, he can go and put his feet up for the rest of the afternoon. Jonas Greif, it's his turn to take over that machine.
So on the track map, Zeppelin, who is still out there, is just going through turn 2 at the moment, as these two will filter into that corner. The BMW and the Mercedes coming out now. The number 10, coming in now rather, the number 10 machine of Eduardo Cosseteng, been trailed in here by Mokoena. So they were 3rd and 4th after that pit stop phase, or the latest part of it. They come in now as well, because we are, what, two and a bit minutes away from the pit window closing. Leon Kohler getting in there. He has some BMW experience, because did a couple of weekends in a BMW with the Volkenhorst squad in DTM a couple of years ago as a teammate to Marco Wittmann, and managed to get a very strong 7th place finish in one of his races in DTM.
Quando Mocoeno out of the car, his work done for the day. He is handing over to Max Rice, another of the young chargers out of the Formula 4. He's a German driver who's been racing for the ADAC team in the French Formula 4 series. Max Rice, a driver who has been aiming for GT Masters for so long. He's got his own app. I would recommend downloading MR28, the app that he's designed and built. Gives all the information that you could ever want, and really excited to have him on the grid of the ADAC GT Masters. Denis Bulatov has spun the BCMC Volkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martin. Now he's been able to rejoin, but all that hard work that Mike David Ortmann did, and he's turned it around into the gravel, dropped him down into 12th place.
Yeah, turn 10 by the looks of it, so just coming out of that rapid chicane into the right-hander that leads onto the back straight. But he got out of the gravel track pretty quickly. In comes Zeppelin then from the race lead as it stands, but of course he wasn't the race leader outright. That was only because he picked it up as the last pit stopper. So Zeppelin comes in, good stint from last year's champion, and in the number 1 Landgraf Motorsport Mercedes, he will be replaced by Tom Callender. So Tom now being strapped in, ready to go.
So the youngest driver ever to have raced in ADAC GT Masters is about to take to the track, but look how busy it is. David Schumacher currently in amongst the traffic. He's got Johannes Kapfinger around him, also Jean-Luc Deoria in the Ferrari. So he's in 8th place at the moment, but fighting for position. 7th place Kapfinger ahead of him. Jean-Luc Deoria, also Alex Fack there as well. He's been elevated up the field as a result of that slightly shorter pit stop, and Alex Fack is a very useful pilot indeed, and he will be pushing forwards.
Yeah, so great scrap going on. That's the thing for the drivers coming in for the second stint, you're thrown straight in at the deep end, straight into the race. The Emil Ferrari was about to fling one up the inside there as well by the looks of it. And here we go with the last of the pit stoppers. So the number 1 car of Calendar coming down the pit lane and about to rejoin, but it's a long crawl down that pit lane, and it's going to take a while to get up to speed as well. So he's about to come out. There he is, exiting, but of course right on his tail now is going to be De Cyberg, but he goes a bit deep into the corner of the BMW, puts 2 if not 3 wheels onto the gravel trap because he knew he had to try and home in there. So for now the Mercedes effectively picks up the lead of the race, and there the BMW of number 10, De Cyberg, which was driven and was running in second place when Eduardo Cosseteng was behind the wheel of the car, has probably lost about a second there in that run through the gravel.
So much pressure on these young drivers, so much pressure on Max Reis. He has the mighty Finn Wiebelhaus. They were teammates in the Formula 4 last year. They're not teammates now on the track. At least they're running for the same team, but they're fighting each other for position on track. So Max Reis in the Mercedes, Finn Wiebelhaus also in the Mercedes. Both of them in the HRT Mercedes MT GT3s, but of course running very much for themselves. Jonas Greif has Alex Fack. Now these two drivers have raced together a lot in the last couple of years in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany. Alex Fack putting the pressure onto Jonas Greif.
There's about a 15-second lead for Maxim Osten before he came in the BMW. It's going to be pretty similar, if not a bit bigger now, I would say. So Leon Kohler, who's taken over the number 54 BMW, already coming out of turn 2. But of course, we've got that change for second during the pit stop phase with the number 1 Mercedes of Landgraf, started by Elias Seppinen, deciding to come in late. That worked. There was also some very good in-laps from Zeppelin, and the pit stop worked well as well. Calendar's got in, and he's second and ahead of the car that was in second before the pit stops, the BMW, now driven by De Cyberg, started by Cosseteng. That's third, and fourth on the road now is the number 5 Mercedes, Quando Mokuena. Good first stint, but Max Reis has inherited 4th place. So the one that's gone backwards the most is Fitcher. That car, the car that started by Fitcher, the Mercedes number 3. Finn Wiebelhaus now 5th place as it stands. It was running in 3rd.
This was the battle we saw earlier in the traffic. David Schumacher pushing forwards, currently in 7th place, trying to work his way through the traffic. The cat finger there in front of him. Janis Fitcher, the driver that is going in the, that was Jonas Greif in the 33 car. Denis Bulatov, this is the view from him, and this is where he had that swapper, the back end of the car stepping out, and he looks to make sure there's nobody around, rejoins safely. Alex Fack, I don't think he had anything to do with that, but the Aston Martin pointing the wrong way, he's able to get it out of the gravel track and rejoin, but a long way back, down in 11th place. Some lovely shots coming out of turn 14, not so lovely for Jean-Luc Deoria, getting a little bit airborne, testing the suspension of that Ferrari 296. It all survives, so he rejoins. It'll take him a couple of corners to clean the tyres up after that. Yeah,
Jean-Luc Deoria coming from the Italian GT Championship, which he finished as one of the front runners, going a little bit leery out of the final corner. There's the bollard, it's gone.
Bon voyage.
It held on for as long as it could, but one more sucker punch and it's gone and going wide and into the gravel. The number 10 De Cyberg car, that was a couple of laps ago we saw going into turn 2. He just ran a bit wide. In fact, this is another one. No, this is another one. He's had another moment here. That was all 4 wheels through the gravel and onto the grass. So De Cyberg's had a couple of gravelly moments, but that was the worst one. So now he's dropped to, what, 4.6 seconds behind Calendar. He's still running 3rd in the road. He's still 2 seconds ahead of the number 5 Mercedes of Rice. But it's all looking good for Kohler. Yeah, they've maintained that 15-second lead through the pit stop phase, the 54 BMW. In fact, he's nearly 16 seconds clear now of Tom Calendar.
Cannot emphasize enough the pressure on the shoulders of some of these young drivers, stepping up in some cases from Formula 4 straight into GT3, taking over the second stint, sometimes in the traffic as well. The pressure on the likes of Gregory De Cyberg and Tom Calendar, Max Reis, Finn Wiebelhaus, a lot of pressure on those shoulders. It's a steep learning curve, but the rewards are great if you can get it right. Leo Kohler, a more experienced pilot, 15 seconds to the good of Tom Calendar, looking very solid with 20 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. Alex Fack in 10th place. He is the Pro-Am pairing that I was telling you about earlier. So he is a silver driver. His co-pilot, Alex Schwarzer, was a bronze driver, but he is done for today. You can see the lap evolution between David Schumacher and Jean-Luc de Oria. David Schumacher very much just looking to push forward. A driver who is considered to be very much a favourite for the championship here, as you already mentioned, has had a couple of years in DTM, and GT Masters just a good opportunity to really regather himself after what were a couple of quite difficult years in DTM maybe, and get himself back towards the top of a championship. Yeah,
Schumacher going pretty well in the white number 2 Mercedes. Seen his dad Ralph around the paddock as well, 6 times a Formula 1 race winner. So he's there in this battle with Catfinger. They'll be pleased though, the Catfinger brothers, weren't they, to be moving up into the top 5 after all their troubles and the team rebuilding the car after practice. Look at this, Alex Fack is all over the back of Greif, but the Lamborghini just about stays ahead in this nose-to-tail battle that we got going on for 9th place. He gets a good exit every time as well in that Porsche from the final corner at turn 14 as well, but he can't quite get close enough to lunge down the inside into turns 1 and 2. But again, look, he's very quick at the end of the lap, but I think showing his nose on the way into turn 14 will probably cost him a chance to get close enough over the start-finish line. So now the old touring car trick of flashing your lights and trying to distract the driver ahead. And this was him pushing on here, coming out through the final corner, and both of them running wider for the Lamborghini. Careful not to puncture the tyres there when you're taking that much speed through the stones of the gravel trap.
There's an awful lot of gravel on the track on the exit of turn 14 where so many cars have gone wide, but Jonas Greif starting to look a little bit vulnerable, maybe a little bit more than a little bit vulnerable to Alex Fack, flashing the lights once again, has a little look to the outside, cuts back to the inside, still nothing happening at the moment, but Jonas Greif practically being pushed around the corner by Alex Fack. Out onto the chicane they go, bumping across the curves, past the remnants of the bollards, and out in towards turn 10. But still, Alex Fack can't find the route past.
So we had that replay not long ago of a proper run through the gravel trap for the number 10 BMW, which was second in the first half of the race. Gregory de Seiberg dropped as a result of that down to 8th place now. So he was running in 3rd when it happened. He's dropped down to 8th place now. You mentioned that he's the grandson of former Grand Prix racer, the late Joe Siffert, who was a 2-time Formula 1 race winner. But he was the driver. You remember the story of Le Mans 66, as we get a replay of the Lamborghini and the Porsche getting close together. Le Mans 66, of course, you've seen the film with Christian Bale and Matt Damon. You know all about the story, and Ken Miles and the 1, 2, 3 for Ford. But the driver that finished 4th in a Porsche in that famous race was indeed Joe Siffert. So there you go, he was just on the fringes of that great motor racing story.
Brilliant stuff. History littered all the way through our sport. Wonderful to see. Alex Fack, well, some great shots from our drone here, who's just about keeping up with them as they head out of turn 3, which is the Hasseröder turn, up towards turn 4. This little sequence of corners. Alex Fack still trying to work out how he's going to get past that Lamborghini in front of him. Staying nice and close out towards turns 5, 6, 7 and 8. He'll want to get a really good exit when they get up to turn 14, so staying as close as he can through this back section of the track. I don't think into turn 11 there's an opportunity to overtake. Maybe no one's told Alex Fack that. He has a little look to the outside. Jonas Greif knows that he can hold on to the line, but he does it. Well, what do I know? He comes sailing through. Alex Fack finds the opportunity. Yes, you can pass in places that are not into turn 1. The proof there is car number 4, up into 9th place.
Nice move that, wasn't it?
Great.
Ala Eduardo Cosseteg, he pulled off that similar move twice. Look how much quicker he is, though. Ever since he got past a whole 3 corners ago, he's just left the Lamborghini behind now. So there's a long gap to try and make up any more positions. De Seiberg in the BMW is his next target. He's in 8th place, but he's 10.5 seconds up the road. We've got just over 15 minutes left on the clock before it ticks down to 0. Kohler maintaining that 16-second or so advantage in the leading BMW, 16.4 seconds ahead of Tom Callender. Last lap comparisons, he was about a 10th quicker as well, and Callender was 6/10 quicker than the new 3rd place car from a couple of laps ago, the number 5 Hout Mercedes driven by Max Rice. So that gap is opening up a little bit as well, but 1:25.6 from Finn Wiebelhaus in the next Mercedes, number 3 in 4th place. Keeping the pressure up. He's got that gap to just about half a second now, so that's the next battle to keep an eye on for the final podium.
Yes, and Finn Wiebelhaus, as we've already mentioned, has proven to be very rapid from the get-go. The final quarter of the race we are into now, and that is Alexander Schwarzer talking to Alex Fack Sr., who runs the Fack Autotech team, a very successful team, have been successful in Porsche 6th Carrera Cup Germany, Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup, and years ago successful in the ADAC GT Masters. Back in here again for 2024, and it's Alex Fack Jr. who now pulls away from Jonas Greif in that 9th place, chasing after Gregory de Cyborg in the number 10 BMW. The 1, 2, 3 unchanged at the moment. Leon Köhler, Tom Callender, Max Rice, but it's Finn Wiebelhaus that we got one eye on. It was 0.6 of a second behind earlier, closing in. So Finn Wiebelhaus in car number 3, 0.631 last time across the line. Max Rice in the last of the podium positions.
Been a good effort from Rice and Mukwena, hasn't it? They were 9th on the grid. They're on for a podium here in that turquoise Mercedes in 3rd place. If he can keep Finn Wiebelhaus behind him, and then Cat Finger's not that far back in the Porsche either, the number 91 car, which had that big crash with Johannes behind the wheel in free practice yesterday. That team did a great job to get the car all back together, and he is pushing on as well, running in 5th place. Then David Schumacher only 0.7 behind him. Doria only about the same gap behind him, and that Ferrari's starting to come into the mix now, isn't it? Number 14, the Emil Frey car, 7th place.
So here we see it. That is 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all in the same shot. 8th in the background as well. But the fight for the last of the podium positions by no means over. Doria closing in on David Schumacher. That would be a feather in the cap if you get past him, wouldn't it? The Ferrari closing on the Mercedes ahead of them. Once again, Johannes Kapfinger picking up a little bit of dirt. They've been exploring the outer limits of the circuit all weekend. But here comes Max Rice. Finn Wiebelhaus has closed up. Doria goes wide. He rejoins. There's been a lot of grass track racing here this afternoon, but he still continues. No problems there. But the fight for 3rd place, this is going to go all the way to the flag. I should think that Max Rice, well, he's friends with Finn Wiebelhaus, but we see him there, the shot pointing back at the driver. I think that Finn Wiebelhaus will be turning the heat up on Max Rice.
This was Doria going just a little bit wide. You've got to be careful, because you see another shot of the front of that Ferrari. It's got the grille air intake area at the front of the car starting to fill up with grass trimmings now. If that happens too much, the airflow is restricted and the engine temperatures rise, so not good for the Ferrari, but it handled pretty well on the grass at least. It cost him about half a second or so, so dropping him back. Leon Köhler continuing to lead the race comfortably by 16.3 seconds, just managing the gap. Then you wait, then you wait, then you wait. The car that's right behind him, of course, is a lap down. And then you get the 2nd place car of Callender, which in turn is comfortable. It's nearly 10 seconds clear of that squabble that we've been watching between Rice and Wiebelhaus and Kapfinger for 3rd place.
You briefly saw the number 63 car that Tim Zimmermann had been driving. He handed it over to Benjamin Heites. There's a driver who featured very much in last year's ADAC GT Masters Championship. Had 2 wins, finished 4th place in the championship, but clearly points in the upper regions are going to be difficult to obtain here today. But Benjamin Heites in 13th place at the moment in the number 63 Lamborghini. Tom Callender in the gold and white number 1 Mercedes. The 16-year-old driver running on his own to get a podium on debut would be a dream ticket. Max Rice with his mirrors full of Finn Wiebelhaus. Number 5 versus number 3. The 2 drivers both running for Team HRT Haupt Racing. The only rule that the boss would have given would have been don't take each other out.
Very similar lap or sector times between Schumacher and Doria. Schumacher in the white Mercedes, Doria there, you can see in the blue and red Ferrari, recovering from that grassy moment a couple of laps ago, but he's only able to match the pace of Schumacher. He's not really closing the gap. Schumacher in turn is very much hanging on to the tail of the Porsche driven by Kapfinger, but not really closing the gap. So as they were, but you've got to keep the pressure on the driver ahead. Make sure they have to drive flat out to keep you at bay, and if they drive flat out, then there's always more wear and tear of the car or the tyres, more chance of mistakes. So you've got to keep pressing on, even though you feel like you're getting nowhere sometimes. But certainly getting somewhere now is Finn Wiebelhaus. He's getting closer and closer in this battle of the Mercedes for the final spot on the podium.
Less than 10 minutes to work out some way of getting past the blue car in front of him. These two cars absolutely glued together. The gap between them has not changed. They have been about 0.6 of a second all the way round. Finn Wiebelhaus feeling frustrated, I've no doubt, by his teammate up ahead of him. He's got 9 minutes plus 1 lap to do something about it. Maybe out of the 14th turn onto the pit straight, or maybe, as has proven to be the case, in towards turn 12. He's too far back at the moment, but through this windy section out towards 12 and 13, he'll want to get as close as possible to maybe launch an attack in towards turn 1. Meanwhile, Johannes Kapfinger, coming under pressure from David Schumacher. This is for 5th place, the yellow and blue Porsche. In 5th place, David Schumacher in 6th, just behind then Jean-Luc Doria. Maybe he's just dropped back a little bit, but Schumacher now putting the pressure on as well.
I think Schumacher going quickly because the gap, as I say, had sort of been stalemate for a few laps, but Schumacher took 2/10 out of Kapfinger's Porsche through the first sector of that lap, and another 2/10 out of him in the middle sector. How did the lap end? Kapfinger and the Porsche did a 1:25.8, a 1:25.4 for Schumacher. So yeah, he's got the gap down by almost half a second to just under half a second. He's half the gap to 0.4 seconds. So Schumacher winding it up now, the battle for 5th place. This we're looking at is the battle for 3rd place just ahead of them. So it's Mercedes versus Mercedes here. Behind them, it's Porsche versus Mercedes, and ahead of the field, the BMW just maintaining that gap. Calendar, in fairness to him, is matching the lap times of the race leader, but of course he's 16.5 seconds back, and that's too much to Tyrone Bridge. But if there were nose to tail, it'd be quite a race because they are trading lap times, although you could probably argue that Leon Kohler is not necessarily having to push to the max because he's got this comfortable margin.
These are the young superstars, not of the future, of the present. And you can see them entertaining us here in race 1 of the season for the ADAC GT Masters on the road to DTM. To remind you, funding for the road to DTM winner to get into DTM next year, it could be any one of these pilots. There's a driver who has experienced DTM, would dearly love to be back there again before too long. It is David Schumacher, who still has Johannes Kapfinger ahead of him, but Max Race and Finn Wiebelhaus running together. It feels to me like Wiebelhaus is turning up the pressure just a little bit more. He's taken 1/10 of a second out of Max Rice in that 3rd place. He knows that the time is starting to run out, maybe trying to force Max Rice into a mistake.
Yeah, not working yet though. He is being cool and calm, isn't he, Max Rice? It's very tricky because you sense the pressure from behind. You automatically want to over-defend into the corners to close the gap, but you don't really want to do that. You start being too defensive because that's not the ideal racing line into the corners. So as much as you can, just try and keep what you're doing and stay focused as a race leader. Puts a lap on the Aston Martin, and then you're on board here with the Benjamin Highty's car, which is also lapped. So 2 behind him now, right behind him are both a lap down. But Highty's versus All is actually for position for 12th place, those 2 cars. The Aston Martin just ahead of Highty's, Hull ahead of Highty's. They've both been lapped. They're both about to go into their own fight for position. Just keeping an eye on the gap from De Seyberg in the BMW, number 10 in 8th place, and Fack in the number 4 white Porsche. He's working hard to try and get the gap down, that's for sure. And he has brought it down to 7.5 seconds. Time's running out. He's got half a chance of catching the BMW and 8th place between now and the checkered flag.
So great shots from our drone with 5 3/4 minutes remaining. Everybody who finishes this race should be able to pick up points. New for this year, there will be negative points that could be awarded on the Road to DTM Championship. Warnings, a drop on the grid. Well, a warning will give them -1 point. A drop of 3 places on the grid will give them -3 points. And a drop of 5 places will give them -5 points. So that's something new in the Road to DTM Championship this year. The drivers are needing to keep it all together and not get into trouble. They also get additional qualifying points on the Road to DTM Championship. There's 3, 2, 1 for the overall qualifiers, but also points are awarded in the Road to DTM Championship as well on top of that. So lots to play for these drivers, lots to encourage them to push hard, but also to keep it clean. Leon Köhler, he's not going to have any trouble from Tom Callender anytime soon. 4 3/4 minutes remaining for the number 54 car. Tom Callender is but a speck in the distance. The BMW leading the way, still waiting for Tom Callender to cross the line. There it is, 14.9 seconds behind. Great mature driving from Tom, but probably not going to do anything about Leon Köhler unless there's a problem for the number 54 car.
Yeah, that lapper did cost Leon about a second and a half, though, and then once he'd completed the lapper of the Aston Martin, Hull succumbed, as we saw from the onboard, to High-T's in the switch for 12th place. High-T's in the Lamborghini, because that was the car that was running second at the start of the race till it got its puncture. Will at least get a bit of a consolation and pick up 12th place. Right, what about David Schumacher? Well, he was catching the Porsche. He's still getting there, but he's bringing the Ferrari with him, isn't he? So 5th is the luminous yellow cap finger driven Porsche. Schumacher in the white Mercedes 6th, and there the Ferrari of Doria 7th. And on the last lap times, cap finger did a 1:26.016, was 30 thousandths quicker than Schumacher, but a 1:25.7 for Doria. So he took 3/10 out of the 2 cars ahead of him.
Very impressive stuff from Jean-Luc Doria. As we see Jonas Greif now with Denis Bulatov for company. This is for 10th place. That looked like I thought it was going slowly. Is it? Yes, he's got a puncture.
Right rear puncture.
So that's De Cyborg. Number 10, Gregory De Cyborg. After all that hard work, currently in 8th place. He's going to drop further. Now, where is he out on the track? He's going to have to find his way all the way round to the pits. He's up on turn 7. He's going to have a long old haul to get himself back to the pit lane. So that will elevate everybody behind up a position, and that is such a tough break, particularly after the hard work done by Eduardo Cositeng. Coming round to the pits with less than 3 minutes remaining.
Here's a replay of the moment he realised it had gone. The car in the 2 turns 1 and 2. Back end dancing around, and suddenly the car all over the shop, and he would have realised pretty quickly what had happened there. So that was right at the start of the lap. As you said, promotes everybody up a place, including Alex Fack, who was catching him anyway. But Alex in 8th place there, and given they started plumb last, 16th, he's not going to be a bad result at all. The car is parked up. Yeah, not even going to get back. Probably worth doing that, because it's going to cause more damage to the bodywork trying to get that car back. He's not going to get anything out of it anyway, so game over now. They won't ever see that car in this race, only afterwards.
What an absolute shame. 2 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race. The car stranded out on track. I'm hoping we're not going to need any kind of caution. I think it's in a reasonably safe place, but I'm not a race steward or a race director, and it would be nice if we can keep this green flag for the next 1 3/4 plus 1 lap. The other of the FK Performance BMWs, no such problems, Leon Köhler, but it is a sober warning. There is debris out on the track, and you could so easily pick up a puncture and have your race curtailed. Tom Callender in that 2nd place, 14.5 seconds further back, and Max Rice, who continues to hold off Finn Wiebelhaus. Great stuff there. Both drivers, in fact, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, all making their debuts, these young drivers, in the ADAC GT Masters, as is the case for Johannes Kapfinger in 5th place.
What we're looking at here could have been the battle for 2nd place, because these are the 2 cars that were 1st and 2nd before that blue and orange Lamborghini, when Tim Zimmerman was driving it fairly early in the race. The GRT Grasser Racing car picked up its own puncture, not quite as spectacular as the puncture we've just seen on the BMW. But Benjamin Haitis, the Chilean driver, is very much making the point now to Leon Kohler that, yeah, I might be a lap behind you, but look, we're as quick as you. You better watch out for us tomorrow. If we don't have a puncture, we're going to give you a run for your money in race 2.
Yes, look what I can do. I'm keeping up with you. And of course, all these drivers that are driving at the moment will be doing the qualifying and the first stint tomorrow morning. And it will be the drivers that did the qualifying today that will be second in the seat. Tom Callender coming through the traffic as well, past Chandler Hull, running side by side out along the pit straight. But of course, that's a lapped car that he's working his way past, running out on his own. The main bit now just to keep off the debris, keep the tyres inflated, don't make any mistakes. In the background, Max Rice and Finn Wiebelhaus continue their duel. Just saw them in the background coming round the corner. There is the second place Tom Callender, running very much on his own.
Really good driving from Max Rice to soak up the pressure for so long. I mean, most of the stint he's had Finn Wiebelhaus breathing down his neck. He's still not far back, half a second behind. It's so easy to be forced into a mistake, and he's defended really well. In a sense, it's a bit easier, perhaps mentally at least, for the driver behind, because you've always got a target. You can see where the driver ahead is braking, you can watch their lines, you can watch everything they're doing and try and outwit them. But for the driver that's defending, perhaps a bit trickier. Certainly having to defend now is Catfinger with Schumacher on his tail. 5th and 6th, you're on board now with David Schumacher, and he's still pressing on here to try and get that Mercedes up into the top 5, but time, Brian, is almost out.
Just a little over a lap, because out of turn 14 is coming Leon Kohler to start his final lap of the race. I have to say, the award for the day for withholding the pressure has to go to Johannes Catfinger. To have David Schumacher behind you for so long and to be able to hold him off, that takes some doing, it really does. So great mature driving after what was a difficult start to the weekend. Still ahead of them, Max Rice and Finn Wiebelhaus continue to challenge for the 3rd place. Wiebelhaus behind Rice, but time is running out because we are on to the final lap. Into turn 3 comes Leon Kohler past the back-marking Benjamin Highties, who's still going, hey, look what I could have done.
Yeah, exactly. It's positive that they got plenty of pace, though. It wasn't their day today. Going to get something out of it in 11th place. But terrific drive from Max Osten to set the scene, and Leon Kohler has just managed the second half of the race beautifully. So almost home and dry now. Half a lap to go as they make their way around this final lap after an hour of racing. Leon Kohler miles in front, 15 seconds clear.
At a Hasseröder, which is turn 3, past the very picturesque lake on the left-hand side, and then through turns 4, 5 and 6, a little sequence of corners all connected together, and then it's a hairpin, which is turn 7, out towards turn 8, which is the chicane that they take as a flat out. But across the line comes Leon Kohler and Max Osten to win the first race of the season for the ADAC GT Masters 2024 for FK Performance. Tom Callender, we're going to wait for him to come round and receive the checkered flag for 2nd place. And will it be Max Rice or will it be Finn Wiebelhaus in that 3rd place? We wait to see who crosses the line. Still, Max Rice in front. Finn Wiebelhaus, he threw everything at it, but he didn't get in front. And it's Max Rice who takes the last of the podium positions, along with his co-driver, but Finn Wiebelhaus and Janis Fischer couldn't quite make it on to the podium. Brilliant stuff. Max Rice, Quando Mocoeno in that 3rd place, Tom Callender, Elias Seppänen in 2nd, but it's Leon Kohler and Max Osten who steal the headlines, taking the top step of the podium. Great stuff. Great opening race for the ADAC GT Masters 2024.
Johannes Catfinger was well pleased with his 5th place as well, flashing the headlights of the used Porsche as he went over the start-finish line to take the checkered flag just ahead of David Schumacher. Great late race battle they had. Schumacher in 6th, Doria not far back in the Ferrari in 7th place, and a good comeback for the FAC team with Alex Fack taking the 2nd stint and ending up in 8th place from plumb last on the grid. So excellent drive, Max Osten. Wow, I mean, what a stint it was from him. I mean, to be 15 seconds clear, and bearing in mind the safety car brought them all onto his tail. So in the space of about, what, less than 20 minutes, 18 minutes to get a 15-second gap. That's impressive. So second win in only his second weekend of ADAC GT Masters.
Check this out. Max Osten has raced in 3 GT Masters races. He's won 2 of them. By my dodgy maths, that's a 66.6% winning record.
It's easy, this motorsport lark,
Oh,
isn't it?
yeah, piece of cake. You can see Quantum Mokoena there with the blue hat and the white overalls just running towards the podium. That'll be his first ever podium in ADAC GT Masters. Was very much learning last year, but said this year, he said to me yesterday he was aiming kind of midfield, just pick up consistent points to get a podium on his first race of the year. He will be over the moon about that. It's Max Osten, Leon Köhler taking the win ahead of Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender. Quantum Mokoena and Max Rice rounding out the top 3. Janus Fitcher, Finn Wiebelhaus, the Kapfinger brothers ahead of Simon Vega, David Schumacher, Alan Valente, Jean-Luc Doria, and Alexander Schwarzer and Alex Fack in the Fack Autotech car in 8th place. Mike David Ortman, Dennis Bulatov, a difficult race with that spin for Bulatov ahead of Simon Connor Prim and Jonas Greif, eventually coming home in 10th ahead of Tim Zimmerman and Benjamin Heites. And then Nico Handke and Chandler Hull, Eduardo Cosseteng and Gregory de Cyborg non-finishers, as was also the case for Jonas Karklees and Pablo Schum. Taylor Hagler, she pulled out early on in the race, and poor old Yannick Julius Bernhardt didn't even get a stint in the seat. Real shame. But the other end of the score sheet, and no, it's not Martin Vigentio, it's Max Osten and Leon Köhler who take the win for FK Performance. That BMW utterly dialed in, followed by 3 Mercedes.
There's a partnership that works then.
Yes.
Great, perfect start for that pair together. So, yeah, there'll be a force to be reckoned with. 2 very talented drivers. And you can see what it means to the team as well. Unless we forget, it's a team sport. The drivers take all the credit at times, don't they? But they can't do it without the performance of the car, without the hard work of the team to go through all the data with the drivers, work out the best possible setups in all the different conditions, all the different temperatures, and of course to fix the things and prepare the things to perfection before the drivers even get behind the wheel. So well done to the team as well. BMW taking the victory, FK Performance Motorsport taking the win with Leon Köhler and Max Osten.
FK Performance, who with Eduardo Cosseteng and Ben Green last year with just the 1 car, have upped their commitment to GT Masters this year, and that has certainly paid off. HRT have got 3 cars in the championship, 2 of those on the podium. And GRT also increasing their commitment to 2 cars. So really good to see the teams getting behind this championship. It's one that is going to grow and grow. A whole new concept for this year. The Road to DTM Pro-Am partnerships also available as part of this championship. So lots of teams showing a lot of interest. We've also got a number of guest entries that are due to be appearing as this year progresses, as we look again at Leon Köhler receiving the checkered flag. He, along with Max Osten, that's a tall man who can pick up Max Osten, because he's pretty tall himself, but delighted there in the pit lane, and the celebrations for a driver who has that 66% win record. That is quite something, isn't it?
Absolutely right, yeah. Just looking at the fastest lap of the race as well, 1:24.3 for Max Osten. A lot of them didn't even get into the 1:24s. So there was one driver that got close, 1:24.458. Guess who that was from? That's right, Tim Zimmerman at the start of the race before the puncture with the Lamborghini that was running in 2nd place. So it shows that tomorrow, they might have won by a mile today, but there was some misfortune for Heites and Zimmerman, and they have absolutely got the pace to win tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow is a new day as we look at 3rd place. Quantum Mokoena from South Africa, Max Rice from Germany, one of the ADAC protégés for HRT in the Mercedes. 3rd place, it's the defending champion, Elias Seppänen, with Tom Callender, who came home in 3rd place. Finland and Germany partnering for Landgraf Motorsport, another Mercedes, but stealing the headlines, dominating the race, Max Osten from the Netherlands, Leon Köhler from Germany for FK Performance Motorsport, that mighty BMW showing the way home. Those 2 drivers, well, you'll be able to see that smile from space, I should think. Really, really delighted. What a way to start the year for these 2 young pilots. Glorious day here in Oschersleben at the Motorsport Arena, and the GT Masters starting a new era in the series in its 18th season, undergoing some really big changes, investing in the future, and a series that has attracted a lot of interest and is going to grow from here. It's just starting out. We're looking forward to the endurance races as well later in the year. A sprint race to start off with. It'll be another one tomorrow, and we're really looking forward to seeing what happens. There's Mokoena, who comes in to get ready for his podium, and hopefully we can bring you the podium presentation in just a few minutes. There's Max Rice, who receives a very welcome bottle of water. Of course, BWT, big influence here in the ADAC and all the ADAC sports that are running a plastic bottle-free zone, which is wonderful. Water dispensers around the circuit, encouraging the non-use of plastic bottles, and all about just doing our part for the environment and just improving things a bit by bit. Right, we're ready for the podium now. So, Max Rice, Mokoena, they'll be delighted. What a way to start your GT Masters career. Onto the third step of the podium. Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender. Elias Seppänen on the right-hand side, the defending champion, into second place. But what a drive for the win. The top step of the podium, Max Austin and Leon Köhler. Wonderful stuff. We'll get a representative from FK Performance. But before that, the Pro-Am winners, Alexander Schwarzer and Alex Fack, Team Alex, come to the podium. They were the winners in the Pro-Ams. And then FK Performance will send up their representative as well to receive a trophy for the team. And congratulations all around. Don't congratulate your own drivers. So we now get ready for the national anthem. So I'd say 8 very happy pilots on the podium and 1 team member. I think everybody pretty happy about that. We get to do it all again tomorrow as Dr. Gert Ensner from the ADAC, the sports president of the ADAC, has done so much to change the direction and to really put a positive influence into everything that the ADAC are doing. He's presenting the trophy to our winners, Tom Callender, Elias Seppänen, also getting some silverware as well. And then more trophies. And Max Rice, Mokoena getting their third place trophies. So tomorrow we get to do it all again, and it'll be the other driver who qualifies the car, but the winners, the car number 54, will have an additional 20 kilos of success penalty on board on account of winning the race. So that BMW is going to be a little bit slower. Second place will have 10 kilos of success ballast, and third place will have 5 kilograms of success ballast. So that may well affect things, and I should think especially Tim Zimmerman and Benjamin Heites will be fancying their chances tomorrow and avoiding all debris out on the track. But at the moment, we look back on what has been a very, very entertaining season opener for the ADAC GT Masters, the 18th season of this historic series, the dawn of a new era, and the drivers taking the headlines on that dawn, Leon Köhler and Max Austin, the winners of race 1 of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. The celebrations now start, the champagne fight. But tomorrow, we get to do it all again. Same time tomorrow, same place. It will be ADAC GT Masters Race 2, and we'll see you then. The 2024 season of ADAC GT Masters. Brilliant driving. It's phenomenal stuff.